Hey, what is going on, you awfully aged Aegis Slash? Before we take a look at the list we're playing some games with today, I want to let you guys know that tomorrow on the stream, Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. PST, I'm going to be opening up these boxes of Brilliant Stars that Pokemon was super nice to hook me up with, and I'm also going to be doing a little bit of an AMA. So yeah, tomorrow, Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. PST. If you can't make the stream but still have a question you'd want to ask me, you can leave it as a comment. Leave the question in a comment here on this YouTube video, and I'll be answering, as many of those questions as I can on the live stream tomorrow. That'll be posting the video for the AMA segment here on the YouTube channel later on. So yeah, if you have a question, you can't make the live stream, leave it in a comment here on this YouTube video. And then the last thing would be Brilliant Stars is now available for pre-order over at fullgripgames.com. So if you guys need Brilliant Stars cards, go check out Full Grip Games. And yeah, let's go ahead and let's take a look at that list. All right, so we're playing some games with Victini VMAX today. It's been a while since I played with this deck, but I decided to run it in some games on the stream the other day, twitch.tv/AzulGG. Second link in the description. Give it a click, give it a follow. I stream every day except Tuesdays. Decided to run it in a tournament the other day. I went 6-2 in the tournament overall. Wasn't enough, quite enough to make top cut. Still pretty solid record though. 6-2 is not bad. And I tried out a couple different things. This list is not the exact 60 I ranked because I tried out a couple different things on that, and I didn't like some of it I did, but this is what I'm at right now with the Victini VMAX. Of course, 4-4 Victini VMAX. And then only 2 Quick Ball, 2 Evolution Incense. Usually you see 3 of each of these, or sometimes 4 Evolution Incense and then 3 Victini VMAX. But I've been trying to cut down as aggressively as possible to try and fit other stuff in the deck. And I haven't been whiffing turn 2 Victini VMAX yet with the 2 Quick Ball, with the 2 Evolution Incense, and the 4-4 Victini. So it's been working so far, so I'm going to keep running it. So that's all of our Pokemon and Pokemon Search. And then, of course, this deck relies heavily on Disruption to kind of carry it through games. So we have 4 Crushing Hammer, 4 Pat to the Peak, 4 Fan of Waves, 4 Pokemon Catcher. I know Pokemon Catcher is not really a disruption card, but when your opponent plays Research or Kabu for the turn, and then also gusts something up off your bench, it's pretty annoying, pretty disruptive. 4 Pokemon Catcher, and then also 2 Tool Jammer. The Tool Jammer mainly in here to kind of stop Jolteon's elemental badges, but it can also be weird in some situations up against like air balloons and all that other kind of stuff as well, but mainly in here for the Jolteon matchup to stop the elemental badges, to make it less of a, it feels almost like kind of unfavored, less of a 50-50, more closer towards like almost an auto win as long as we can find our Tool Jammers. And it does kind of depend on if they play Tool Scrapper or not, but there are some tricky plays up against like Single Strike that we can do to like shut down air balloons as well. So more plays out of it than just the Jolteon matchup, but very good for the Jolteon matchup. That's why it's here. And then I got 12 Fire Energy in here. Hitting the energies turn 1 to turn 2 with this deck is just so important, or even just having the option to potentially get off a turn 1 Spreading Flames with the Victini V when we go second if our opponent goes first is also a huge deal. So we need to not only find an energy to attack with, we need to find an energy and get into the discard pile through a Research or through a Quick Ball. So we need to find the energies, right? We just really don't want to whiff energy turn 1, turn 2 when we're going like first or whatever it might be. So 12 energy I feel like is just the number you kind of have to play. Anything less than that, I always feel like I start whiffing energy. 12 it feels like is the minimum. I remember at some point with this deck a couple formats ago I was up to 14 energy because I was just tired of whiffing energy, so I upped it by quite a bit. But I think 12 is the minimum. 12 is the minimum. If you can ever feel like you can get to more than that, I would say definitely go for it. In the Draw Supporter category, we got 4 Kabu. Actually, this is the Draw Supporter. I've maxed it out here. I'm not sure on this yet. We might want to go to 4 Marty or 4 Research over 4 Kabu, but currently at 4 Kabu. Of course, we got 4 Bosses Order in here as well. We play so many Bosses Orders. Even though we play 4 Catcher, we still play 4 Bosses Orders because we don't get to kind of use something like a Drizzile with the Shady Dealings to kind of cherry pick cards out of our deck, or we don't play any stuff like Crobat or like any other draw support in the deck, so we can't like just find cards aggressively turn to turn. We either have the card in the hand or we have to go find it with the draw supporter. If we play a draw supporter, we can't play a boss. That's why we play so many boss in here, even though we're not going to use 4 every single game, is because we just want to have access to it, when we start our turn or going into our next turn, or when we play Pokegear, we want to have more outs to hitting a boss because we already have 10 outs to draw supporters. That's kind of enough. So when we play the Pokegears, which we do play 3 of right now, we want to be able to see that boss. That's why we play 4 boss, even if we're also still playing 4 Pokemon Catcher as well. 4 Kabu, I really like the Kabu turn 1. It's just such a powerful supporter. It allows us to conserve our other cards, not waste Fan of Waves or Crushing Hammers or Pats to the Peaks, while still seeing a bunch of cards for the turn. Marty also helps us conserve the cards, but it's only seeing 5. 5 to 8 is a pretty big difference in the amount of cards we're seeing. And of course, Research sees a 7, but we don't always want to be discarding our cards. So I'm a big fan of the Kabu on the first 2 turns of the game. And even later in the game, even if we have 2 Victinis in play on one turn, on the next turn, if they're knocking something out, we're going to be back to a 1 Pokemon board where Kabu, once again, will see us 8 cards on the shuffle draw. So huge fan of the Kabu so far. It's felt like the most powerful supporter and the supporter I want most often. So I play 4 of those and then 3 of the others, but a little bit more testing might see that differ. And the last card that I'm playing in here that I'm definitely completely unsure about, but I'm still testing out. And the tournament didn't really tell me one way or the other whether or not I feel like I should play this, is the Echoing Horn. So the Echoing Horn in here is to help very aggressively like put V Pokemon from our opponent's discard pile back onto their bench so we can go chase them and knock them out again, potentially. Didn't really use this in the tournament. There was one cute play I did up against a Rapid Strike Malamar with it, but besides that, didn't see a whole ton of value out of it. I still want to test it out a little bit more because I've never really extensively tested the Echoing Horn in this deck before, so we're going to keep it in there for right now, and we'll see if we can get some value out of the games today. And I think that's it. That's all I got, guys. So be sure to sub to the channel and hit the bell if you're enjoying the content, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. And I think that's it. Let's go ahead, let's get some games, and let's see what we can do with the Victini VMAX. All right, here we go. Coin flip lost, but that is fine. Especially if they're playing Mew VMAX, we'd actually prefer to go second, because otherwise they can just kind of donk us if they go second. Like, it's hard for us to find 2 basic Pokemon without being able to play a draw supporter. It is possible, but yeah, definitely like that. We are going, or definitely fine with going second, like I say, especially if they are playing Mew VMAX. In most matchups, it doesn't really matter too much if we're going second in the matchup. Some of them, it matters a little bit more than others, but yeah, with the constant fear of Mew VMAX, I don't mind going second overall. It's probably what I would choose if I had won the coin flip. Choose to go second because there is so many Mew VMAX on the ladder these days, so we like that. It feels a little bit better. It's not terrible to go first. It's just like, you know, you're hoping for a turn 1 patch at the peak, and then you're hoping that they don't get off the turn 1 of Melota. So with those kind of stuff combined, you know, you don't lose every game you go first or go first against Mew VMAX. Yeah, but like definitely would prefer to have it be the other way around overall. Let's see what we get here. Got the Victini. Got a research. We actually set up for a Spreading Flames on the first turn, which is actually ideal. And we had the Pokemon Catcher in the hand as well, so we can maybe try to be a little bit disruptive with that. I'm sure they'll probably put down at least one more Pokemon, probably. They're probably just not going to have one Pokemon in play on the next turn, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, we can go for our Spreading Flames here, which is the optimal turn 1 kind of setup here, is to go for a Spreading Flames. If we are going second, it can be a little bit tough to pull off because we don't play a ton of Quick Balls. And actually, we do only play those 3 research. So we only play 3 research, and then we only play 2 quick balls. So we don't have a ton of ways to discard fire energy on this turn. We're up against Durant, actually. Okay, so our goal in this one is going to be to play super, super slow. So we're actually not even going to... All right, this is not what I expected at all. We're not even going to play the research here. We're just going to go attach and then pass. Will probably be our play here. And then what we need to be scared of is Echoing Horn. Specifically, Echoing Horn is going to be the big one, actually, because we don't play switch cards, and we're not going to bench anything. But our opponent will discard, and we're not going to discard. We're going to try and avoid discarding basic Pokemon as well. But our opponent can, you know, they're going to discard cards, right? They're going to use Devour. We might knock out a Durant that has a Cursed Shovel. All that's just going to kind of happen. And if it does happen, you know, cards are going to get discarded off the top of our deck. We can't control if there's a basic Pokemon there or not. And if there is, I mean, it gets discarded, then our opponent can Echoing Horn it into play. And the other card that our opponent could actually use in this matchup is the Yellhorn. Those are the 2, and there's the Yellhorn. So now we need to go find a VMAX. I was going to say, so once they use the Yellhorn, kind of got to find a VMAX so we can get rid of that confusion. Hitting through the confusion isn't terrible. And we might even want to set up, depending on how many Yellhorn our opponent actually plays, and if they even find like another one anytime soon, we might want to set up another Victini, kind of retreat between Victinis. Of course, the Galarian Mine is going to make it a little bit more difficult, but we do run 4 paths to the peak, so we'll be able to bump that at some point to be able to maybe move between Victinis. And when we do retreat, we'll probably have to use Spreading Flames for a turn, so we'll kind of be behind another attack. But it's not that big of a deal. And we can just flip through confusion quite a bit, actually, you know, quite often. You know, our opponent's not going to beat us by us knocking ourselves out or anything like that. So we'll throw this down. I want to take the Crushing Hammers for when they try and build up another Durant with like capture energy. So I'm just going to go for the Kabu here. Hope for a VMAX. If not, we're going to go for the Energy Burst through the confusion. There's the VMAX though. And we have an option of a lot of energy and another V. So if we want to, we can build up towards that, you know, that play that I was mentioning where we can kind of hard retreat to a new Victini, use Spreading Flames, and so on. So I'll probably just attach to my active again next turn. As well, and then attach again. So we have 4 energy there, so we could hard retreat it at any point into a fresh Victini to get rid of that confusion instead of just trying to flip through confusion, because if we just get a little bit unlucky, you know, a string of 2 or 3 tails, 3 or 4 tails in a row, whatever, that could be enough attacks where we whiff, and then all of a sudden our opponent kind of wins the game. So we don't really want to give our opponent that kind of option. Comes to Cincino. They did get another twin energy, and that's going to be a big deal as well. They only play 4 twin energy, and they don't have any other way to recover the twin energy, so they have to attack through, usually it's capture energy in the deck, and that's something we can try and take advantage of for sure at some point. That's why we want to hold on to stuff like the crushing hammers or the gust effects, so we want to go chase the Durants that end up with a capture energy, so they can't build up to a new attack. Nothing too important. Another VMAX is gone, actually, is not great. I prefer to have my VMAXs around, to be honest. So I could do that play that I was mentioning where we kind of run between VMAXs or whatever. I guess it's okay for us to like just run into a new Victini V. That'd be fine as well. We did just get one off the prize cards there. That's our second knockout. Still 4 to go. And we have 36 cards left in our deck. Of course, Victini is very like low maintenance as far as you know, Pokemon Go main attackers go. So we don't really need very much to set it up and keep it attacking turn to turn. So, you know, pretty easy to just rock this solo Victini here. And yeah, until our opponent kind of gets rid of, like I mentioned, if they can get rid of a Victini V, if they mill one, they can all of a sudden switch into, you know, trying to find that Echoing Horn onto the bench and try and trap it in the active. But until that happens, it's going to be my opponent Duranting and us taking the knockouts, and we're four knockouts away, so they need to find something. I don't think they can beat us here unless they somehow just start to disrupt us, whether that be with the Yell Horns or the Echoing Horn. Like I said, the Echoing Horn play there a little ways away from that. Another Cincino coming online here, it looks like. More make dues to be done. I don't know if it's going to be enough, though. Like I said, I feel like we're in a pretty comfortable spot. There's that capture energy I was talking about, so now I can go for a catcher or a crushing hammer, or even just a fan of waves to reset the capture energy would be fine as well. We don't have to like take the energy out of play. Putting it back in their deck means they're still 1 turn further away from being able to do anything with it. I'm gonna hold the energy because I could just harder treat because I do have the Path to the Peak. It doesn't really matter what flip card I use, I feel like. So I think the crushing hammer is the better one to go with because I like the flexibility of the catcher a little bit more, because we're still knocking out a Durant in the active. So I'd like to keep the catchers around in case I want to like go chase a Durant or something, because we know they do play the Snorlax, so they could put a Snorlax in the active, and actually Victini VMAX can't one-hit KO a Snorlax, so it would give them a little bit of time to kind of set up, and I'd like to be able to probably gust around that. So I think, yeah, I think going after with the crushing hammer here is the correct play to go with. Get rid of the energy like that. That way we also still knock out Durant, and then if they do set up a Snorlax in the active at any point, play some catchers, keep chasing those ants, force our opponent to have to, you know, keep getting the ants back, or that many more ants back turn to turn. Of course, if they have 2 ants in the discard pile, it's basically like having 1, because they do use the rescue carrier to recover the Durant. So the second Durant, yeah, see, second Durant in the discard pile is really not that big of a deal. They could get to recover like the Mincino to make do that instead of some other card in their hand, but yeah, having the second ant in the discard pile is basically like having 1 ant in the discard pile for the most part. It's when we get up to like maybe 3 Durants in the discard pile where it could become a little bit annoying for my opponent. Here comes another Devour. Still 30 cards left in the deck, and they actually haven't found any cursed shovels either, right? They've only found that 1 cursed shovel, so just kind of lacking on the disruption. I guess like the cursed shovel's not really a disruption card, but who knows, if they had a couple cursed shovels in play, maybe they get that basic in the discard pile, and then from there they're able to Echoing Horn that into play and boss that up. But none of that's happening for my opponent, so it's been pretty smooth sailing from here. And yeah, we're just 2 ant knockouts away from winning the game. This is exactly how you want to play these kind of matchups, whether you're playing something like the Victini deck or something else. Try and play it as slow as you possibly can. Of course, you still want to be putting the pressure on at the rate of a knockout a turn or something like that. And there's a concede from my opponent. Yeah, we just took our time, didn't play any draw supporters. We just set up our Victini VMAX, and it was a pretty clean dub. As long as we know what to do, you know, if I've been playing supporters every single turn, just trying to set up as much as possible, I think it would definitely go wrong. But yeah, whenever you play up against something like the Durant deck, something with like an alternate win condition or just like a funky way they win the game, always try and reevaluate your board state, come up with what seems like actually the best play, not just what you do, you know, game to game on average. All right, here we go. Of course, we opened Victini. I was about to say we started Victini, which is our optimal starter, but it's also our only starter. But we did also open it. We opened the Victini, another Victini in the hand. We're gonna try for a spreading flames here on the first turn, and then just see how that goes. We'll also see what we're up against here. I have no clue as to, I mean, Moltres V's played in a lot of decks. Looks like it is that counter box deck though, so Suicune gonna be super annoying for us, but they might not play capes. A lot of these builds actually don't play capes, and if they don't play capes, we can actually one-hit KO the Suicunes, and because we have such a small bench and they're not playing Ludicolo, they actually 2-hit KO us, just like most of their other attackers. Like, they 2-hit KO our VMAX. So it'll probably actually be fine overall, to be honest, if I had to guess, as long as they don't play capes. A lot of them don't play capes. Some of them do play capes, and the capes will definitely be hard for us to deal with, to be honest, because we don't have a way to one-hit KO those Suicune. So having a 2-hit KO a Suicune could be pretty tough, but it might be fine. We'll see. Go in with the Evolution Insight. It's not going to grab anything, of course. Maybe get a Crushing Hammer heads here. That would be nice. Tails there. Catcher. If I got a heads, to be honest, I don't even know what I'd bring up there. So I don't even know if I should have played the catcher. I guess I would have brought up the Guru, but I'd probably rather have the Moltres in the active if it is going to get stuck. Can Spreading Flames throw an extra energy into play? I think I will take advantage of that. Get another Victini. I could go like 1-1-1 on the Victinis, or I could put 2 on the bench one, but then I could get boss knocked out. I'd be working with less energy in play. Do I go the 1-1-1? Well, I'm already committed to it. The problem with this play, though, is I can't use Kabu next turn. Now, we do have the Marnie in the hand, of course, and we could get a research off the Pokegear, which I'd probably play over the Marnie, to be honest, but I can't Kabu. So I do lose that option on my next turn, not being able to Kabu, and that could be a pretty big deal, to be honest, being able to Kabu or not Kabu. Of course, if they whiff the knockout, it doesn't really matter either way, to be honest. If they whiff the knockout, it doesn't matter if we could or couldn't Kabu, or we just wouldn't be able to Kabu anyway. So hopefully they just whiff the knockout. That'd be best for us overall, to be honest. So rooting for my opponent to whiff the KO here, and then hopefully finding a research off the Pokegear, because we do want to get the KO on the Moltres, if that is going to be what is stuck in their active here this turn. But there is the Dire Flame Wing, so they can get the Hard Retreat into the Suicune and get the knockout this turn. But like I said, if they don't have the capes, it's actually not that bad for us. They get the Suicune set up, they get the knockout, but without the cape, I'm not that scared of the Suicune. Yeah, here comes the Blizzard Rondo. So we need energy, we need a VMAX. Can we find those things off of potentially only a Marnie? Not gonna lie, that sounds a little bit tough, but not impossible. Let's see what we top deck. It's the VMAX. That's a great start. Let's see what the Pokegear gives us. There's that Kabu. I'm gonna go with the research for sure here. I'll grab the research there. There's the Kabu I was talking about. Maybe should I put 2 energy on the one? The problem if I put 2 energy on one, that kind of becomes like a good boss target for my opponent. Didn't want to really do that. Hey, we got the energy as well. There we go. Energy and a Tool Jammer. I don't know if that's going to do a whole ton, but it definitely could. Shutting down potentially an air balloon so they can't get into an optimal attacker for the turn. Force them to have to use a suboptimal attacker could be something that happens here. We get that hit in there, get the KO on that Suicune. So it's looking pretty good here, actually. And the prize trade kind of goes into our favor from here, I think. Once again, if they don't have capes. And even if they do have capes, we can look to do some boss and catcher shenanigans. You know, they got a lot of V Pokemon in play, and we'll probably be putting a couple more in play throughout this game. But they got the Articuno here. They got the Crobat. Both those get 1-hit KO'd by our Victini VMAX. The Moltres currently gets 1-hit KO by our Victini VMAX. And that seems to be what they're setting up for here, is this Moltres to attack with. But like I said, 2-hit KOs our Victini. We win that prize trade back and forth there. And that's why the capes are so important in this matchup, to really give themselves a shot. But they don't play the capes. I guess we did have the Tool Jammer, though. I forgot we played Tool Jammer. I've been playing without Tool Jammer for so long in this Victini deck. Like, I didn't even realize we do play an answer for capes. I said we didn't. But we actually play the Tool Jammers. So we have an answer. I actually drew into the answer. So even if they had a cape there, the Jammer would have done some work. The Jammer would have done some work for sure. My opponent's still digging. Let's see if they can even get off an attack this turn. They're struggling right now, though. They're definitely struggling to pull it off. Let's see if they can put it together. I'm actually debating right now whether or not I want to play the Kabu on this next turn. I definitely don't want to bench this last Victini with it out of the deck, but I think I definitely end up in a spot. Oh, I think they're close here. They haven't attached for turn yet. There's a switch run to the Guru, so no attachment. This is huge for us. Now we're going to play the boss for sure. No debate on the Kabu at all anymore. Playing the boss. They switched before they used the second Articuno here, so now they could draw into the energy. Ooh, that could be really punishing for my opponent there. But we got the boss, so we're going to be in a great spot on after this turn. Be in a great spot after this turn. Just bring up the Moltres, knock it out. The attacker they were trying to set up, remove that from play. This Victini is still around. There's no threat for this Victini to probably get knocked out on the next turn. So we're in basically a commanding position from this point on. Yeah, we're in a super commanding spot from this point on. They might try and leave the Guru in play for in the active for a turn or two, while they maybe try and set up a Suicune with a cape. But we still have the Jammer, so they'd also have to get their own Tool Scrapper involved. I don't think I've ever seen a Tool Scrapper in these kind of decks before. There is that Suicune. Okay, they do have the cape, but we still got this Jammer here. And if they're not 1-hit KOing our Victini with the Suicune, we're not scared. And yeah, there's the Energy Search and the Concede. Pretty clean dub there. So they do play the capes, but we did get the Jammer on the turn that it would have mattered. So to be honest, yeah, I completely forgot we had the Jammers in here. But, yep, dub. All right, here we go again. We did lose the coin flip once again, so I am assuming we'll be going second. Yeah, that looks like the way it's going to go. Going second with this deck always feels a little bit awkward because there's usually a pretty big threat of, you know, our Victini getting KO'd. Our first Victini anyways. So, yeah, there's always like a decent amount of threat on that first Victini getting KO'd. So then it's like we have to find a second Victini V, which we don't really want to put in play to begin with because we want a Kabu. And then it's like if our opening hand has the Kabu, plus a way to get the Victini V, or the Victini V itself, like, do we put it down now? Do we wait? Where do we go from here? Well, it looks like we're up against the Rapid Strike Urshifu. This matchup, it's a pretty tough one, especially because they can set up Inteleons. That's kind of the scariest part about this matchup, is they can set up Quick Shooting Inteleon with just like one energy, really fast. The Marnie top deck is great. Fan of Waves is great. Tool Jammer is great. The attachment is great. And I think we'll just play the Marnie. Nothing really, not a strong indication that my opponent's hand is like actually dead or anything, and I'm helping him out too much here. We got the turn 2 attack set up. That is great, but like I said, yeah, we want to eye those Sobbles and Drizzles potentially. Those guys can be huge threats, because if they get to the Quick Shooting Inteleon, you know, they play Rapid Strike energy, and Inteleon is a Rapid Strike Pokemon. They can literally attack with it for one energy. Usually, if we're up against something like a Leafeon or just any other deck playing Quick Shooting, they have to work a little bit harder to attack with the Inteleon, and they probably play Artillery as well, so they can just kind of find those Rapid Strike energy pretty aggressively. Of course, depending on how the turns actually go for my opponent will, you know, decide whether or not we want to chase something like the Sobbles or the Drizzles, or just kind of KO Urshifus. If they just kind of put the prize cards out there for us to kind of chase and win the prize trade aggressively, we're probably going to look to go that route. But if they try and slow things down with Inteleons as soon as possible, if they see that line, sometimes when I play up against people and they should be using the Inteleon as their main attacker, they just don't see that line of play. It is a pretty uncommon line of play to look for, so they don't see it, and then you know, we don't have to worry about it because of that, and we can just go the other route, and our opponent's just like not paying attention. And also, oh wait, I could attack with my, you know, my Quick Shooting Inteleons. Pretty good attackers in this matchup. Not everyone always sees that as a line of play. The Marnie coming in, but a pretty good draw. We got the energy and the research, so hopefully we can find ourselves a VMAX. Probably not going to be chasing many Drizzles, but just hitting their active here is going to be still pretty good overall. To be honest, with only one Drizzle in play, I wouldn't mind chasing that Drizzle on this next turn. So we'll see what this research gives us. We could still get a Gust effect through a catcher. I think that is not happening, so we're not to settle for the 220 on the active, but that's not too shabby, to be honest. 220 to the active Urshifu here is pretty good. We got a quick ball to start setting up our next Victini, and then a draw supporter, so our hand is exactly what we need it to be on the following turn, especially because we're definitely content with just hitting into this Urshifu VMAX on the next turn. And they attached active here, so they have the option of the GMAX Rapid Flow. Here comes the Tower of Waters, though, so now they can get into that Inteleon, or they can get into this Urshifu, and they can, you know, make things all kinds of weird. So they got some options here for sure. Here comes the Escape Rope, so they could possibly even Gale Swept with this Urshifu. Not great, to be honest. If I had to pick for them, I would not Gale Swept with that Urshifu, but might be their only... Actually, they're just passing. It looks like our Marnie kind of did them in a big way here. I actually don't want to really crush it. I don't care if they have that. I'm just going to go Path Hit here, I think. I'm not going to play anything else. Path Hit. Put the Path in play. Take away the option of the Crobat. If I bench something else, they can pull off a GMAX Rapid Flow and get a ton of value out of that. I'm not like in any danger of getting KO'd. Not putting an energy in play for turn doesn't feel great, especially if we're trying to go like with the 3-2-3 line with the Victini, going to a V, from a VMAX to a V to a VMAX. If we're trying to pull off the 3-2-3, it's gonna make it a little bit more difficult to do that because we whiffed an energy attachment for turn. But our opponent didn't put any pressure on us for a turn like we would have assumed they were going to. So I think I like just pass here. Potentially taking away the option of Crobat. Usually there's one, maybe two Towers of Water in these Urshifu decks. Not usually a whole ton of them, though. The Sobble is coming down, but just knocking out their active here should set us up to basically win the game, I feel like. And we got the boss for next turn. Now I think I'll go ahead and Quick Ball and attach. And then I don't think I'm just going to take the KO on the active, to be honest. I could go for the boss now, but this boss lines up for us to just win the game on the next turn. So I think I'm just going to go with that max victory. Go down to one prize card. And we have the boss for game on the following turn. I wouldn't be surprised if my opponent eyes up a Marnie from a Drizzile here. I assume that has to be what they have going on here. Is they got the Sobble finally. Maybe they have a Drizzile in the hand or an Evolution Incense. With the Evolution Incense, they could have evolved this Drizzile. So yeah, just a Drizzile there. And now they could go in with this Inteleon. They could make this into a Inteleon, but we're so far ahead at this point that we're not as scared of the Inteleons. It's earlier on is when we're scared of the Inteleons. That's when they're, you know, like a turn 3 quick shooting swinging at us for 140 damage, and then we only hit it for 100? What? That's ridiculous. But when we're this far ahead, we're not really scared of it. And who knows if they'll even be able to pull it off, right? They at least need a quick shooting on the active, right? They at least need the quick shooting on the active to stop me from winning the game, or the other Inteleon. But then if they're not attacking this turn, You know, I'm not too scared. We got the boss, so if they don't scoop up at that Drizzile, then we just win. Here comes a Medicham, but that's not going to do it. Yeah, I think we got my opponent in this one. But if you're ever playing an Inteleon deck, make sure you remember that you play Quick Shooting if you go up against the Victini. Definitely very important to remember as an option. No, we still KO the Medicham. I think they thought they were... maybe not. Maybe they're just booping and dipping. Yeah, it must be a little boop and dip here from my opponent. Just to close this one out. But yeah, remember, if you're ever playing an Inteleon deck, remember Quick Shooting is an option as an attacker up against Victini. So many people forget that as an option. Gotta remember that one. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's not always correct to go down that route, but definitely leave it open as an option for yourself. Don't just completely forget about it. Remember it's an option, and then utilize it when it's appropriate.